Yeah, I see the need, I understand the need there just to slide it up a little further, just to preserve like what they're getting at for any improvements that have to be made in the future to their field. And who knows? And wanting to not disturb it for the whole, north-south direction of the field potentially. Try to limit their exposure and risk. Makes some sense.
That is one of those areas where they're sandwiched between those two roads, Lakeshore and North.
Yeah.
It's a pretty skinny strip there.
Excuse me, we still have public comment on this?
We had closed that, I'm sorry. No, it is tight.
Yeah, and they have a lot of room. So
Yeah,
are we just moving then the part where it needs to go? We're just looking at one direction.
right, one direction and moving it southward towards North Road. Lorna, is there any comparisons that were done at all for helping understand what other accessory buildings may be doing alongside of that road in comparison to this request? Do we know like offsets or like an average of distances currently?
For the setbacks?
Yeah.
The one next door, it has about a 7-foot setback from North Road.
Okay. The immediate one to the west, 7 feet. Okay. And this would be from one corner point, the way the road is laid out on the radius, right? We're talking about that closest point or corner.
That's correct.
So it improves as it goes away, but still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Will you be accessing this structure from the rear of the?
North Road, yeah.
Okay, so if you are 5 feet from the road, you have enough room to
Actually,
access?
the drawing is actually, there's between the side of the road and my property line is about 24 feet.
Mhm.
So, and then we would be 5 feet from that with our setback.
Okay, and that's why you're corresponding with the road commission?
Yes.
Okay.
So it'd be about 30, 28, 29 feet from the edge of the road.
Okay. Well, I think we have a motion in a second.
Yeah, I think Mr. Eadu has made a motion probably for this first variance, right, already? So, yeah.
Do you want one for the second?
I think we should get through the first. Hmm. I don't know. I'm just still having a hard time with how close it is.
Do you know
I
that road?
I don't.
Okay.
I didn't get to see it.
A lot of people don't know it's called North Road, but it happens to be in my neighborhood. And I walk on it quite a bit, so I totally understand what is happening there. But when you come off a Lakeshore heading towards the state park and you make a right-hand turn, immediately to your right, there's a road that looks like it's just an access road for the state park. And it's just people drive up there because there's a trailhead.
Yep.
Not very many people do. And at the very far end of that is a little community of really old cottages.
Yep.
And stuff. And then his house and several houses there back up to that. That's what it is. It's almost like it's a road, but it's more like to me, I always thought it was a service road. It's not like heavily traveled or anything like that. It's just like, you know, you have to kind of pull over if someone's gonna coming and that kind of thing. So it's right there, kind of almost across from Lake Street, that little bit of Lake Street there. So if that helps any.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe there's 10 houses. I don't know. I never really counted them, but that kind of butt up to that and have the same situation. And when you walk, you see some people go up there and they bring their car in from the back and, you know, store kayaks or whatever and pull them out from there and take them and stuff. Because it's a little harder to get out onto Lake Shore.
It's interesting that this is the front yard though, to me, right?
So the only reason it's a front yard is because it is along a actual road. The front yard is actually South Lake Shore, but based on the ordinance designation, both South Lake Shore and North Road are considered front yards.
So we've got 2 front yards on the property.
Yes.
So this is the south front yard.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Off North Road.
On North Road. Yeah.
Just by a two track.
Let's get this straight. Okay. Yep. I mean, looks like our staff is in agreement with most of what we see anyways here too. I tend to be in support of this based on all that I've read, so.
Is staff still comfortable that the conditions have been met, given the conversation that we've had?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we've got a motion and I'll support. Do we need to run through or do we just, based on what we see from the staff report, we can probably just move forward?
It was incorporated.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll take a roll call.
Mr. Ede?
Yes.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Cerny?
Yes.
Ms. Payne-Nayak?
Yes.
Mr. Fleece?
Yes. All right. So first variance is passed for your south front yard. So next thing for us to touch on here is the square footage being requested here. So we got a different set of standards based on section 38-491. And it appears that everything here has also been met according to staff, the way I read it. And we're talking about, what was it, 2.5%? Yeah, we're 0.5% over what allowable is here. So we got a lot size, 20,437 square feet, yields of 409 square foot accessory structure, and we're at, looks like the applicant is asking for 504. So we've got 95 extra square feet of building that they're looking to construct. And in the past, it seems like, we've been on par for allowing this to be happening. There's several cited examples from staff in the memo.
This structure appears to be a smaller deviation than what we've approved in the past, both in terms of lot coverage and proportion to the principal residence structure.
It's worth noting, I know it's been noted too, but you know, there's a portion of this that's open air too, right? It's not, it is under roof, so we gotta obviously consider it all, but a lot of it is open air for the lean-to portion. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problems with supporting a motion to do this, right? I can make a motion right now to accept it based on staff reporting as written. I don't know if there's any other comments.
I'd support that motion.
Okay. Okay. We got a motion to support. Can you do roll call, Lorna?
Absolutely. Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Cerny,
Yes.
Ms. Payne, Mr. Fleece.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like you got both variances passed, so you should be all set and you can expect to see a letter from Lorna in the coming week. Or, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Let's move on to our item number 5 here on the agenda for public hearing number 2. Lorna, can you introduce that for us?
Yes, I can. This is a request by the Kathy Weller Trust to allow a short-term rental use in a zoning district where it is not permitted. This is 2256 Lake Michigan Avenue. This is actually off of North Road down south of the last parcel. The request is for a guest house that is on the property. It, according to host compliance data, has been used as a short-term rental since 2011. The applicant has used it as a short-term rental since, I believe, 2017, based on what I found. And yes, for the guest house on the property.
Just one other note that this is a use variance as opposed to a dimensional variance. So we had talked about those some time ago. They're much more rare because they're a little bit more akin to a rezoning of a property. And so the bar for a use variance is much higher than a dimensional variance. One of the things that includes is that this requires a 2/3 vote of the ZBA as opposed to a strict majority.
Okay. Thanks, Mika. Okay. Is the applicant here today? If you could, if more to add, you're welcome to do that now to help clarify anything.
This is my,
Absolutely.
Okay.
my name is Chris Weller, and this is my daughter Sarah. And we're just, we've been, we live in Granville, but our summer residence is in Holland at Park Township at this house. And so we've been coming here for years. We'd camp out here for 45 plus years. And then we'd bought a condo at Lake Ranch. And then we outgrew that. So we bought the house on Lake Michigan, and it came with a second house on the parcel. So Sarah came to just help me because I'll probably forget she's good with notes. But yeah, I have a rental there, the primary house we use for ourselves. The one that's been a rental, we've been using it as a rental since we bought it. I'm not sure how many years. Sarah can help me with that.
It was purchased in 2017. The prior renter or the prior owners before it purchased it in 2009, and they have been renting it the entire time. We don't have data on the ones before. So we didn't apply for the supplemental use because we couldn't, and I think that's in your notes, we couldn't reasonably say, yeah, it had been rented that whole time. So yeah, we've had it since 2017.
But Sarah's been managing it for me. We don't give it, it's not a money maker to speak of. It's something we've had to offset our carrying cost. But why don't you hit on some notes here real quick?
Yeah, I mean, you guys all saw the application. We know this is a hot topic. We're not here with attorneys and the news and everything. We're just here trying to ask kind of in quiet. Kim knows where this is. It's down this quiet road. Most people don't even know that this exists. But when the rental rules got more clarified a couple years ago, we've been abiding by them. We've not been doing illegal renting. We tried very hard. And last year we did have one renter for the month of July. Because people want to come here and they want to come here kind of seasonal, for short vacations, I would say. They like the weekly rental. We typically have either a couple that comes, or we have parents wanting to visit their kids at Hope College, or we might get parents with 1 or 2 kids, but really mid-June to mid-August is your rental time when people want to come to the lake. And the 28-day restriction on it makes it so you really only can get one renter, because nobody's going to take beginning of June to end of June, or beginning of August to end of August. So we've been playing by the rules. You guys can see kind of the history of the property. There's been 2 houses on it, we believe, since 1972, when you go through the archives of it. Because it is so old, the house just has a lot of work, and it's cute and it's historic. We believe it's actually maybe one of the Bissell's old homes from looking at the records. But every year we're doing tons of maintenance to upkeep it.
1940 is what we figured.
Yeah, it was
house.
I mean, we are using the main house, and we're there May to October. We would be the first people that would say absolutely no renters there. Like, we don't want any riffraff, any party, anything. It's just a second house that's there that we're not using and we're really unable to use. We did, let's see. We did see all the staff comments come back just before the meeting, and we're just asking you to maybe take a relook at it. I know that I'm just going through the staff comments a second, but on number 1, where did I put these? On number 1, we agree with what staff said. Like, the main house is being used and it's being used for its purpose. We just don't agree that the second house is really being able to be used by anything. So like a quarter of the property we can't really or aren't really using because there are 2 houses on there. Number 2, we didn't really have tons of comments on. Number 3 on staff comments back. We said we haven't had any complaints. We haven't. I don't believe Park Township or anybody has had any complaints. Our neighbors haven't had any complaints. We do our absolute best to make sure that the 2 or 3 houses that are back there by us, that they are very happy. We don't allow pets. We allow for 1 car, 4 people max. Like I said, we would be the first people to shut it down if there was anything wrong because we're back there. And then number 4 on the staff comments, it said the hardship is not self-created, and it said, well, we should have known about the zoning. We didn't know about the zoning when we bought it. I mean, I feel like the zoning thing really just came up in the news the past few years. The people before us had been renting it, and so we never knew about that. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Sarah screens all the people that come there, and there's not a lot, but there's usually it's a small little 800 square foot cottage, and she screens them, and we have rules in place, and we've never had a complaint. And then we sit with them on the beach. We get to meet these people. It's really adds flavor to the area. I really like that. And most everybody there they've never seen that big ocean before. They're from out of town, and they're kids, and they giggle and run the beach. Or some 4 sisters last year were drinking wine overlooking the sunset up at the cottage, and it's just really neat. And I don't have a problem with renters. There's a few troublemakers that made problems in this township. I don't know. I don't believe it was near us, but so because of a couple bad eggs or however many, it kind of then it just wrecks it for everybody. And so we know you're here. You can make an exception for us. And I think if you did make an exception for us, you're not going to have a whole bunch of other people running in for this, because I don't think there's very few people that have 2 houses on one parcel. So I think you could say no. And one other thing, if you were going to shoot us down, I guess if you maybe consider a conditional use variance, would just stay with us, since we've had good comments from our neighbors. they just said, well, what if you sell it someday? So I thought maybe since I know the use variance, if we would get it, it would stick with the property, but I know you can do a conditional use that would stick with the owners. So if you'd consider that as a way to, anything else, Sarah?
I just know this has been a hot topic and there was something in the news, Judge Hulsing talked about the absence of homeowners. We're not out of state people who bought this as a REIT to try to make a bunch of money and we're not there. We're there because we want to enjoy it. We give the people our phone numbers, they come knock on the door. I mean, and it seems like the couple that we had rent last July, they seem very similar to the people that come and rent for a week. I don't really see much different in the types of people that we're getting for that type of place. We're not getting party people. We're getting retirees.
So.
And we do
I'm not gonna
definitely
take that kind of investment for the main house and wreck it with some party people. So again, we're asking for an exception for us, not for everybody. And I think that board is here that can make that decision. And I don't think it's gonna change what's going on in Park Township with the short-term rental. So if you'd consider it, we'd sure appreciate it. And we thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate your time.
any questions? Okay.
Everybody have questions for you, so. This time I'll open it up to the public if there's additional comments from anyone that would like to offer them. Now's the time. Seeing nobody, I'll close that public comment period and we'll open it up for more discussion. This is a pretty unique situation where we've got owners still living on occupying a primary seasonal residence, I guess, right? And have a secondary dwelling on the parcel as well. So do we have many instances of this sort of situation throughout the township? Do we know?
I don't have a count of them. We could probably ask the assessor to pull that. I would say that it's not unusual. Not a majority, but it's not like there are only 5 or 6 in the township. There are quite a number of second houses that are already on properties. And then we also have accessory buildings that are not supposed to be dwelling units, but we kind of see people flirting with that line on a regular basis. So not especially unusual, although not common. And as we've said, it's non-conforming, it's no longer permitted.
Right. Okay.
So the standard for the use variance as well is basically looking at a parcel and saying, you can't do anything with this under the zoning ordinance as it's written right now. You're kind of stuck. You're between a rock and a hard place. None of the things that are allowable in the zoning district are something that you can actually do on this parcel. And so when you're looking at the use variance, you're saying you can't do anything on this property that is allowed by the zoning district. And that's the reason why you're looking for a variance. So that's kind of where the root of that comes from. A lot of places are not allowed to offer use variances, and there's kind of a quirk of how our policies evolve. That is why it's even an option in Park Township.
I think to that point, I appreciate the applicant's comments about how you have managed that property in the past, but for purposes of a use variance, we have to take you out of it, and we have to take your past renters out of it, and we have to look at it as a parcel. What a future owner or future renter could be very different. And so while I appreciate your comments and your willingness to manage a property in that fashion, out of respect for your neighbors, and it's not going to be really relevant to our determination tonight. I echoing what Mika's comments stated, the ordinance, certainly state law, requires us to look at whether there is an unnecessary hardship for a use variance, which the primary determination is whether the parcel can be reasonably used in a manner that is permitted under the zoning ordinance. And here we have obviously the main home being used. The applicant acknowledges that. We have this smaller structure that the applicant has indicated they were able to have a long-term renter in there, perhaps not as lucrative as they would have liked or occupied for as many days of the year, but that is also a permissible use to have a long-term rental. So I struggle with kind of what I see as the primary factor of whether this parcel can be reasonably used consistent with zoning. And it seems to me that it can. We give some consideration to investment back expectations, but it's a little different analysis with a residential property than it would be for a commercial type property. I don't think we have to get into the nuances of that, but
Yeah, so
property can still be used for single
rental.
family purposes and long-term rental.
long-term rental, yeah. We're just talking about the short-term rental aspect of all of this, right? With the variance in
Mr.
the use
Chairman,
currently.
given the fact that there's still potential litigation with regard to short-term rentals, I'm very anxious, even though I empathize with the applicant, I'm very anxious about doing anything that would impact whatever the legal outcome is going to be. So I think we have to be very conservative in our approach.
No, I would agree, and I echo your comments about what is being provided here from the applicant and the sensitivities of it and how involved they are with it and how, the link between any rental and them is constant. That's just an interesting aspect of all of this, that none of this is happening without them present, but to your point, Ms. Morgan, yeah, it's gotta kind of take them out of the equation unless, I don't even know, like the applicant had the comment about a conditional request about this. And I don't even know if that's part of this or it had to be a secondary application for that, or is that conditional aspect of something we even talk about?
Well, they're
just different.
There are different ways to condition zoning approvals. A conditional rezoning is not something that we would be looking at. That's outside of our purview. To place a condition on a use variance, I think you still have to overcome the hurdle of whether they would even be entitled to a use variance before you would get to any potential conditions on it.
Mm-hmm.
As to the comments in the staff report and in the applicant's comments about, the applicant speaks about the pros and cons of short-term rentals and things that we've obviously heard in analyzing the short-term rental issues previously. But that is somewhat relevant to one of the factors that we have to consider, whether the proposed use would alter the essential character of the surrounding neighborhood. And I think one of the things that was determined by this township and upheld by the court is that the short-term rentals were inconsistent with single-family residential uses. And so I think to find otherwise in the context of this application, someone seeking to use the property for something that's been determined not to be permitted, to me would be inconsistent with those previous determinations. And again, perhaps this property and their past renters did not alter the neighborhood, but in looking at the use itself and whether the use alters the character of the neighborhood, I think the township has determined that it does.
Yeah, I would say so this parcel essentially has 2 single-family homes on it, right? Never could you do that today.
Well, you can't do that today. You can't build a second house today, but like I had alluded to, we do see people who are wanting to use their accessory buildings for all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
And some who are stretching the limits to, they do want to have a place for their guests to stay and for people to stay. So although we don't allow them, we do think some people are sneaking in the side door or doing some interesting architectural things as well. So there, the desire for guest houses is something that we kind of look at. We get, I don't know how many applications each year where we're going back and forth with the designers and with the builders and saying, well, this is, no, now you've got 2 units here. This is 2 dwelling units, so you're gonna have to change the plan in this way or that way, remove these items. You no longer have 2 dwelling units. And it's usually because we want to have friends stay, we want to have family to stay, we want my mother-in-law to be around, so it's not permitted. We don't approve it, but we do see some demand for that.
Yeah, we certainly see accessory buildings with the need or want to have plumbing in them, and that's what we, even here, when it gets this far to us, we see that, which we deny. Just to avoid that potential occupancy from happening. I think we've heard a lot of compelling points in the past for all that we've been up against, last year, and it's another great point, for the negative aspect of all the things that are happening. So I don't know. I don't think it's. I don't know how we get past trying to make a motion for this to be approved. Just seems like out of our jurisdiction again.
I don't think it's out of our jurisdiction. I think we have jurisdiction to decide the application. But if even one of the factors is not satisfied, then the application would have to be denied. It's my reading of the ordinance.
So you need 3 out of 4 here to pass, right? With these standards, there's 4 standards. We need a 3. Oh no, we just need a majority of 3.
You need 4 out of 5. A 2/3 majority is
Of us.
Of the vote.
of the
Of
vote.
us, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then for the standards, all the standards.
Right. Yeah.
Mika, you spoke about other guest houses in the township, and one of the factors that we have to look at is whether the plight of the property owner is due to the unique circumstances of the property rather than general neighborhood conditions. So where these other guest houses are located, would that be considered part of the neighborhood? What do we consider the neighborhood when we're looking at that? Are we talking about the zoning district? I guess how widespread is the concept of neighborhood?
I think that's a little bit of a question of interpretation. I think that I think we've looked at it a couple of different ways. It's definitely, I mean, the zoning district, is it aligned with the zoning district? Is it different than the zoning district? I think you can make that argument. If you're in an area that's unique, so maybe every other house is very similar to yours, you might be able to say, well, it's more limited to the neighborhood. I would be a little bit inclined to go towards the zoning district.
I feel like in the past, when we've had to look at neighborhood conditions, we have looked at it in terms of the zoning district, especially here, where what restricts you is the requirements of the zoning district. Or, for example, we might consider an overlay district to be the neighborhood that we're considering. Based on the fact that there are other guest houses in the township, I would have a hard time finding that this is due to the unique circumstances peculiar to this property. If we have other guest houses in the township, in the residential districts. There's nothing about this property's characteristics that prevent it from being used according to the zoning ordinance, and it is being used for that. Um, I was trying to think of other examples of where these types of arguments could come up, and I realize it's apples to oranges a little bit, but you could have a situation where, we have a number of properties that have multiple outbuildings, and we could potentially have an owner come to us and say, we used to collect antique cars and we don't want to do that anymore, and we have to pay taxes on all of these empty barns, so we should be able to do self-storage, or so there are other scenarios where I could see these same types of arguments coming up, where carrying costs, holding costs, are certainly a factor, but I don't think that rises to the level of proving unnecessary hardship for purposes of a use variance.
We do have, I don't think we've mentioned, we did have 2 public email comments come through on this subject, right, that we should note. Like both letters were not in favor of permitting this, so yeah.
Are we allowed to be both orders?
Yeah, you shouldn't. Did they not get copies of that, Mika?
With that.
The letters that we've
We don't
received,
automatically
distribute those,
Yeah,
okay.
We can.
Yeah, we can share those.
We just got feedback at 4:55 today, so.
They're posted on it's always posted on the website the week before the meeting. The memos.
Yeah, there's one from Thomas Klein and one from Bob and Colette Denoyer. That's all I saw. Was there any more?
I
Okay,
was just looking, it looks like, I think that's all I see.
okay. Yeah, it's hard to get to veer away from anything here, away from the staff comments, in my opinion, too. I mean, I know how we all feel, but when it comes down to the legality of it, I mean, to Ms. Morgan's comments all make pertinent sense.
I mean, if we had a property owner come to us with one home on their parcel that used to be a short-term rental, and now they say it's not feasible for us to rent it 28 days at a time, that's not going to rise to the level of a use variance. And in my opinion, this is really not any different. A short-term rental in some cases involves a portion of a property. It could be a room, half the house, the entire house. But at the end of the day, if the parcel can be used as zoning allows, to me, that ends the inquiry.
Yeah.
Reasonably used.
Yeah, it seems like there would have to be a smattering of cases like this for zoning to be questioned, for it to be rezoned, for us to say, yeah, for not to be here.
If you start rezoning parcel by parcel to allow short because that was some text speculation, then you've essentially obliterated your zoning ordinance.
No, correct. I was thinking more of a conglomeration or something like that, of adjacencies all having the same.
Something that would trigger a change to the zoning ordinance, which the township has not done. And so that's outside of our purview to challenge that or to question that at this point. So
Well, based on all of our discussions and staff comments, I'd make a motion to decline. I don't see us getting past any of this. Based on all I'm hearing and reading, so. Right. Do I have a support? You do. That's okay.
Yes.
All right, we got a motion and a support on the table. So Laura, could you roll call?
Absolutely. Mr. Eid,
Yes to deny.
Ms. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Cerny,
Yeah.
Ms. Payne Nayak,
Yes.
Mr. Fleece.
Yes. Appreciate you coming. Sorry for the outcome. Okay, next item on our agenda is public hearing number 3. Lorna, can you introduce that for us as well?
Absolutely. Okay. This is a request by Macatawa Partners LLC at 2150 South Shore Drive. They are converting an office into hotel units. There's one in particular that we are looking at today, which is a 340 square feet unit. And it is a studio style unit, and they're requesting a kitchen in there. So namely a sink, oven, and range, which is currently not permitted for hotel or motel units under 500 square feet.
Okay, is the applicant here? And added any additional detail for us if you wish? Sure. Thanks. If you can state your name and.
Yep, Wade Aldine.
Yep.
2305 South Shore Drive. Been living at the marina my whole life, more or less, and working there my whole life, so 51 years. First job at 6. My wife's also here in the audience. We were at the planning commission last week to get the use of change and the site plan approved, and I went through. Mr. Eady was there. If you have questions about that. I too just got the staff notes when I was having dinner tonight, so I just did a quick read through them. How strict compliance would be unnecessarily burdensome. Seems like the 250 to 500 square foot number is kind of arbitrary. It could be 501 square feet, and this wouldn't be necessary. It was mentioned not being safe, which I would disagree with, because the hotel units will include sprinkling. So fire safety is, kind of taken care of, as well as not only an entrance, but a sliding door for a patio, and you're on the ground level. So I don't think fire safety is a concern. I'd be more concerned about, people plugging in, toasters and toaster ovens and things like that versus a built-in unit that's meant to cook. Sounded like the next one, described as experience will do justice, was met by the notes. What's unique about the property that warrants a variance? Well, I'm only doing this because the offices have gone unrented besides the post office for many years. That's not due to me. That's due to, the internet. That was due to COVID. That's due to people working at home. So this is in response to forces beyond my control. And that it's commercial property and it needs to pay the bills, it needs to pay the taxes, it needs to maintain the roof, got a new roof, and things like that. So it has to actually bring in some money to maintain the property, and that is one way to do it. And as far as what we already have on the property being rented are all 3 bedrooms and greater. 1 and 2 bedrooms makes sense, especially for some of our boating customers that might just want a spot for a captain or for a race crew or something small, but then also have the ability to still cook. Other considerations, we're in the floodplain. We're using the same footprint, the same access doors, the same windows. Again, for feasibility, it needs to pay for itself. Could I draw something up that expanded it, that made things bigger, that put doors in different places, but then the costs kind of get out of control. And so obviously it's supposed to pay for itself. So using the existing features, existing foundation, existing everything more or less, just reinterpreting the inside. This was the best design came up with for wanting to have a small unit and or a 1-bedroom unit and 2 other units. Another thing that was noted in the thing was in the comments was about there's no dividing wall between the kitchen and the bedroom. Again, if it was 501 square feet, there's no requirement to have a dividing wall between the bedroom and the kitchen, as far as I know. So again, that's kind of an arbitrary kind of suggestion because it's not in the ordinance and you can do that anyways, if it is 501 square feet. And then it was also mentioned, it was, so for number 4, the problem was self-created. It was said, this is entirely my desire for a change of use. It's not entirely my desire. If the office space was in high demand and office space was renting, my desires would be filled. But again, it's lack of demand in office space. It needs to be something else. And this is what we're going for. So let me know if you have any questions.
Appreciate it, Wade. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone in attendance that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close that commentary period and open it up for board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I ask the applicant a question.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have you spoken to the building inspector and or fire inspector about this request?
No.
Okay. And
So, I mean, except for, we'd be building everything to whatever the codes and regulations are. So the one thing that was mentioned was the sprinkling, and I was already assuming we'd be putting in sprinkling, assuming we'd be putting in the extra firewalls in between the units. We've done, when we reconverted the restaurant into 3 large apartments, those things were things that had to be met. So I'm going based on my own experience of what was required in the past.
would you agree that if the building code does not allow a kitchen with a stove and an oven in this size unit, that we don't have the ability to overcome that for you?
Oh, if you're saying that's true, I don't know the legality of it.
Okay, I was just asking if you had inquired into that.
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks for asking that. My questions you answered about fire suppression is all part of this, obviously. Rated walls in between is part of this, assuming by code. The same question I had was, I know that this is something written here that says the ordinance says that it is not permitted for the use, or sorry, where did it say? Any hotel, motel, resort unit between 250 and 500. What is that in reference to? Is it our ordinance? It's not building code, but
That's the C2 ordinance.
it's the C2 ordinance. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's far greater than the ordinance too, I think, as you're alluding to, Ms. Morgan, because there's code issues with all of that, but the inspection inherently lies within, is the jurisdiction of inspection still lies within the township, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a state official coming in to.
Right, yeah, and this wouldn't override the building code. Lorna had reached out to a commercial plan reviewer. We've talked to our building official too, and it's not entirely clear to me. I don't know, maybe Lorna had more conversations as far as which direction it would fall for that.
Yeah, so based on what I found from talking to Chad Warden, our building official, and the building official from Holland Charter, who does a lot more with the commercial code, the current commercial building code, I think it's 2021, section 420.11.2, it does not permit cooktops, ranges, and ovens to be installed in sleeping rooms. And based on their analysis of that, a sleeping room would be kind of like this, studio unit. So based on that, I don't believe that our building official will be able to approve these plans.
Thank you.
There's-
In response to that, it's one interpretation, there could be another interpretation, but if that was the interpretation and a dividing wall could be put in, still has to review that change with if you did vote to approve it and you're concerned about that, you're saying, okay, as long as it meets the building code. If it doesn't meet the building code because of no partition wall, if a partition wall could be added, they may add one and meet the guidelines.
I'm not comfortable speculating as to what the building code says
can't.
and imposing conditions like that. I was gonna suggest that if there's potentially a conflict, it might be the applicant may be in a better position to address those issues and come back with something from the inspector or someone who can speak to that.
Yeah, so this was flagged from a building plan review already? And it came here or no?
Go ahead.
No, so I had just wondered, so I had asked Chad, our building official, what he thought about it, and he looked at it, and based on what the commercial building code currently says, he assumed that a sleeping room would be, this studio type unit, and then I double checked that with the building official from Holland Charter Township, just because he does more code or more review and uses the commercial code more. So that was something that came up when I was doing my review, and I thought I would ask, so.
What is your time frame? Are you comfortable exploring that further and then coming back to us with additional information rather than risk?
Oh, no, I mean, I've told Mick all along, we'd be building this towards building code. So if it doesn't meet building code, we wouldn't build it.
That
But
wasn't my question, yeah.
No, that'd be kind of doing things in reverse. Well, I wouldn't go for a building permit to have this unless you approved it. So. And it was approved based on the size, and the building inspector said that no, it has to be a separated wall, then I'd look at adding a separated wall.
I just feel like that's more something that should be done by the inspector than guided by us, I guess. To your point, Ms. Morgan. What's the square footage of the room?
340.
340.
On the issue of whether it's self-created. I mean, it is self-created in the sense that it's the plans as presented that
Correct.
create the need to request the variance, right? So if there were two large units and you eliminate the 340 square foot unit, then it's a non-issue. So I do tend to agree with the staff comments, and I do struggle with that factor as well, in addition to the potential conflict with the building code, based on the feedback from two building officials, local building officials. It's this particular plan that creates the need for the variance. It's nothing about the property itself or the property characteristics itself that create the hardship.
Trying to work within the confines of existing conditions is proving difficult.
And I can
Yeah, I
appreciate
appreciate
that there is more expense involved and I can appreciate wanting to utilize existing characteristics.
100%.
I'm not faulting the applicant for that.
I just wish there could be a different layout that avoided all of this for him altogether.
And and I think there's a big difference between 340 square feet and 501 square feet. I look at the drawing and you have the bed right next to where the stove is going to be. I think that kind of highlights the reason we have that ordinance from a safety and
But-
welfare standpoint.
That's something that stems from code that I'm sure the township just says we want to enforce it and make it sure it's in our ordinance so it doesn't become a problem for us. So I mean, I get it. There's life safety factors involved with the sure if we read the NFPA code for fire protection, it would tell us why this exists because there was a case to bring it upon us to say, make sure you never do this again. That's why these things exist. It's just to avoid death, unfortunately, in cases that are hazardous, which they've at some point in time, this has happened. And that's why that ordinance code is in front of us.
It's a small space to have a bed and a full operational kitchen with an appliance like that.
Not in today's world. I mean, tiny houses and all that, all this stuff fits in. That's what communities are recommending these days to, save.
I think our code and our ordinances draw distinctions between single family homes and more transient uses where maybe you can't always educate the people who are occupying those structures.
And single family homes don't have fire suppression. The ordinance you're talking about probably predates the ordinance on fire suppression, the building code fire suppression. So I mean, it's a decent discussion.
I mean, single family homes are typically, you've got the isolation typically. I mean, you can have studio apartments, but still in that case, I feel like codes don't allow for that appliance to be within that space. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't want to.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we have any other spots around the township that would have anything like this, like Lake Ranch or any of those type of places that would have similar?
If they do, they predated me by quite a bit, so I haven't had any across my desk.
Okay.
The Lake Ranch, I didn't know they had small hotel units. My mother-in-law mentioned it to me last week when we were at her house for dinner. So we drove by there and pulled up the website. It looked like they might have one unit that has a stove or oven, but not sure how big of a unit it is. But most of them didn't have a stove, but there was one, I believe. And I'm sure those are before fire suppression.
Based on what I'm hearing, I don't feel like I hear us moving in a positive direction right now, but
The planner did suggest allowing the sink, so allow the sink and they're moving to the new C2 code, which will allow sinks.
so if we need to do this, I mean, we'd have to have a conditional aspect to this review for Just the sink?
The same, so the C2 ordinance, it is underway. We still have a little bit of work to do on it yet, so it's not a done deal. But that was one of the things that I think will probably end up going through is allowing a kitchen sink. There is some discussion about, even if you're doing takeout, if you're doing baby bottles, if you're doing whatever, there could be a lot of reasons that you wouldn't want to be using your bathroom sink for that. So that is kind of the direction that conversation was going. Can't promise that's where it would land, but that's the direction it was going.
We could essentially consider that as a lesser relaxation.
Mhm.
Okay, because by definition, it says that but shall have neither a kitchen sink nor stove oven. So, yeah, we would be trying to exclude the stove oven from what kitchen is defined as, I guess, right? So does that change our review of the standards, given a conditional aspect in which to review them?
I would have significantly less concern looking at a sink as opposed to a potential fire hazard involved with a
I
stove
would concur.
or an
Yes.
oven.
My wife had the suggestion just now of no oven, but just a 2 burner stove as well, as opposed to somebody plugging in a burner or whatnot, just 2 burner cooktop, no oven.
Mika, as part of the C2 ordinance revisions, is this section that we're looking at tonight regarding up to 500 feet, is that something that is going to be amended?
It's been discussed. I would imagine, I think that at least the kitchen sink part will be amended based on that. And I'm not sure yet where the kitchen in general is going to land, because we did have some of the same concerns raised just as far as the overall safety of it. Although, I think Ms. Aldean's been pointing out, you can kind of go back and forth on some of that as far as, if you have countertop appliance versus an oven versus given the fire suppression. So I don't know where that piece of it's going to land, but I think that the kitchen part of it or the sink part of it.
The sink
probably-
part. Okay.
And that is relative to something under 500 square feet.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And Dennis, I think, were you at the last meeting? I was just trying to remember if you had any other recollections of that conversation.
No, I'm not up to speed on that.
Not the details of it.
Well, if we were to approve a sink as a lesser relaxation and the ordinance were to be amended at some point in the future to allow a cooktop or something along those lines, then that presumably could be added consistent with the ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on what I'm hearing, I'd be inclined and feel comfortable making a motion to approve the kitchen in a hotel unit where it's not permitted based on the exclusion of a stove or range cooktop being present and only a sink. Does that make sense? I don't know if I have support for that, but that would be based on all I'm hearing. It would get the applicant the ability to proceed knowing what they're getting into without seeking more than what they know they can get.
I would be more comfortable approving that variance than I would approving a variance that conflicts with the building code.
Correct.
I just don't think we have the authority to circumvent what has been put in place for the safety of the people who are utilizing the facility.
I have a question for the applicant. Just out of curiosity, have you considered like what would this would like not even be an issue if the line just went straight down and you had 2 1-bedrooms and 1 2-bedroom?
Yes, yes, so again, with using existing doors, we got the 2 access doors on the north side. So then you wouldn't be able to draw them straight down. So that's one reason. And then the other reason is trying to offer a smaller unit for those that just need, 1 or 2 people in it. Yeah.
That I keep looking at it, it just keeps jumping out at me like this wouldn't even be a thing if you just, okay. I just was wondering about
Yep,
that.
yep. So possibility with more changes, yep.
Thank you.
Do you know when we would expect to see changes to the ordinance? Are we talking like just a matter of months or?
I think so, yeah, the C2 in particular, probably within the next couple months.
Okay, I just so that my fellow members are aware, I mean, I'm inclined to vote yes to the lesser relaxation. I will recognize that it's inconsistent with my previous comments about it being self-created, but I'm willing to vote in favor of this in light of the fact that we have an ordinance amendment coming down the pipeline that would permit what it is that we're talking about doing tonight.
It is a hard one to get past, the self-created aspect of it. I would agree.
But Mr. Chairman, I could support Crystal's motion if she made it. Because I think with the ordinance being just around the corner, I think what all we're doing is kicking the can down the road and we should move on it.
So I think we have a motion.
I got a motion.
You made the motion?
I did make the motion
Okay.
earlier. I think the hardship is about this, the conditions or the practical difficulties not being self-created. I guess. As I don't know how I would defend that right now. Even though I did make the motion.
If you are inclined in that direction, the fact that it is in the floodplain and there may be some reason there to remain within the confines of the existing structure could be something that would be considered. The more that you expand something within a floodplain, the more approvals that are typically going to be needed. So, you know, as you looked at, there might be some other alternatives that would at least be a limiting factor. Whether you think it would rise to the level of that hardship is, of course, up to you.
Trying to work within the confines of the building, so we're not seeking approval for additions and like that. So, question for the applicant, quick, wait, is this is an architect's drawing?
Yeah, we took my sketch and put it on the computer.
Okay,
It's not the final,
right.
but
All right. Well, we've got a motion, we got a support. We can run through the standards. I think with the exception of, let's see, we've got the first at the strict compliance with zoning ordinance, regulating the minimum area or setbacks, frontage, height, bulk, or density. Other regulations would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. I think not having the sink does lend to unsanitary conditions in a space if people are trying to utilize it as such, and helps promote a sanitized space. And given that there is a ordinance coming that would potentially overrule or allow for sinks to be allowed, is something that would benefit that this ordinance would be something that could be met. I would say that the second part of this standard that would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other zoning owners of the zoning district is as outlined by the staff comments. And that appears to be met. The third item here, that the plight of the property owner applicant is due to the unique circumstances of the property, not due to general conditions. Being it is an existing building, and changing the use and trying to find a use for the property and the building is offering the ability for use and occupancy to the owner. Given the building's location, I guess this is part of the next item I want to bring up. I guess the fourth standard, that practical difficulties alleged are not self-created. Due to the desire of trying to work within the confines of the building, are promoting, difficulty. And while the attempts are being made, I think given the previous standard about the C2 district regulations coming online, helping the fourth standard be executed. Allowing that space to be converted would do justice to the owner for allowing that to happen. I don't know if there's anything more to add that can help that. Standard is difficult.
you mentioned working within the existing confines, and I think to add to that, the reference to there being a floodplain issue.
Thank you. Is that? Does anyone have anything else to add to that, or do we? Okay for roll call. Roll call, Lorna.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Miss Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Cerny,
No.
Miss Payne Knight,
Yes.
Mr. Fleece.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Next item on our agenda, public comment. So I'll open it up for public comment at this time. If there's anybody that would wish to approach and
I only got
give us some additional words.
My name is Chris Weller. I'm back again. I have 3 minutes, and this doesn't pertain to the cottage we talked about earlier. And it doesn't probably pertain to this board, but the Allendale Township just came up with a short-term rental rules and noise and how to allow short-term rentals in their township. So I could leave this with maybe someone on the board, because I don't think it pertains to this board, but I think the whole township might want to see what Allendale has done and see if that's anything Park Township would consider. Number 2, we came here for item 2, but item 1, I didn't realize it, but they were talking about that 2-lane, actually the 1-lane road that goes back Lake Michigan Avenue, and that we didn't get notified because we're not 300 feet away, but we drive by it 20 feet away daily, and I wish I would have been notified. It's the driveway. It's actually a private driveway, an easement, but I would have commented had I had a chance, because they're going to put an overhead door. It's done, it's voted on, but there's going to be an overhead door, and I assume you're going to have maybe boats or RVs sticking out into the road. It's a very narrow road. It's a 1-lane road made with 2 lanes of traffic and a lot of walkers. So I would have. I didn't even realize it was on the docket until I got here. But what I'm asking for, I guess maybe people on that road should have been notified. So was there one last thing we had? We did not get a copy of the letters from the neighbors. I would like copies of them. If you got a copy, I could take with me. But we paid a lot of money to be here, and I think we should have got that in our packet along with. We didn't get our packet until an hour and a half ago to review, and I think we should get it a week ago, like residents. So I just needed to get that out. So.
Just making sure we got the right phrase.
That's all I got. I appreciate it.
Oh, and that's the second one. Okay.
Oh, thank you for your comment.
So, yeah, appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll close our public comment period. So our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 4. Is everybody planning to be able to attend that still? As far as we know? Okay, looks like we're still good here. Okay. All right, with that, our next item would be to adjourn. Motion to adjourn? Support?
Aye.
All in favor? All right. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.